Neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be my? Won't you be my? Would you be my neighbor? Here we are again, live at the Neighborhood Alliance annual meeting at the Carbondale Library. I'm so happy to be back here in person with you guys. We're doing something a little different this year. We're doing a hybrid situation, so we are here in person. And I want to welcome you guys that are also following us on Zoom. Good things are happening here in Carbondale, and you will hear about them in detail. Over the past year, the Neighborhood Action Group has been following several changes in the city. The Sustainability Commission wrote a sustainability plan, which was approved by the city council in April. The community development department is working on a community trust to improve housing. The police department has been hosting a 5-on-5 program to promote exchanges between officers and citizens. Now, this is very significant because we have actual police officers sitting down with 5 citizens, prominent or not, discussing issues and how to actually deal with problems that exist. There have also been surveys sponsored by the city of Carbondale and by both SIO, working together on gun violence and inclusion. So we've got an agenda here. No, wait a minute. The biggie from the last time that we were here in Zoom, Wonderland, we were promoting the home rule. Let's have a big shout out for home rule in Carbondale. Okay, so let's see what our agenda is here today. This is our agenda. This is what we're going to be focusing on: preparing neighborhoods with Mary O'Hare, listening to community voices with Sarah, community responses to violence, Carbondale United, community development programs, neighborhoods, the Irma Hayes Center, sustainability. I have to stop there when we speak about the Irma Hayes Center. At one time, that came through model cities, and eventually the city became the owner, and it went back into public trust and community hold. They just recently, within the last year, less than a year, had their grand reopening. I recall as a child when we first moved in Carbondale, playing on the gravel within the Irma Hayes Center before they even laid the flooring. And if you can, take an opportunity to go over there and take a look at it. And this has to be one of the greatest public achievements in the city of Carbondale, and I'm so happy about it. We'll have the Sustainability Action Program. I mean, I look here. I've got my bully pulpit, so you know I'm Theodore Roosevelt, and the Greater Egypt Planning Commission. So now, Sarah, where are you at? Well, we got 2 Sarahs. Sarah Hire. Okay, could you come over this way, please? And Mary, where Mary? Come over here, girlfriend. Boy, close you can get. So Mary will be our next first presenter. We're going to try to be as expeditious as possible. So here, Mary.
Right there. Go for it. And is it on? Can folks hear me? Have I got it good enough here? Very good. Thank you, Kareem, for your very spirited welcome. My name is Mary O'Hara, and I've been a member of the Carbondale Study Circles and Carbondale. Okay. Since their beginnings in 2006. Today, I'd like to talk about, and it's a little different there, but it combines something here, building public safety on your block, focusing on disaster preparedness, and building better participation in your neighborhood on particularly zoning issues, and how these two things can work together. As we have a short time, I want to emphasize contacting me for more information and questions, and you'll see some contact information later on the slideshow. Over the last 6 months, I have participated in 2 zoning change requests. In both, neighborhoods believe that the requests, if approved, would impact the quality of life in their neighborhoods. On the northeast side, Larry's Towing sought to expand its business into a vacant section of the neighborhood next to the controversial copper site. The northeast side neighbors and Marilyn Tipton and Chastity Mays were very important in the leadership of this. Were provided very good representation at the Planning Commission, along with the ideas present in our new Carbondale Sustainability Plan. And I really want to emphasize this plan as we are going to again through this program. And these were significant in the Planning Commission's decision to refuse this request. The challenge remains, how will we use this property? And I think this is where some of the biggest stuff and new work is going to go on, needs to go on in the city. The second request was in my neighborhood on the west side. The Door House of Worship wanted to rezone 4 to 5 acres of vacant land zoned agricultural to build a church. Our current zoning already allows churches to be built on agricultural zones. So there was really, in some ways of thinking, no need to ask for this. But the potential buyers, and believe you, they hadn't bought the property yet, wanted a zoning change to what is called professional administration zoning. That would have changed this 4 or 5 acres into places where small businesses could be. And it is right at the entrance of our neighborhoods. It's right next to Parish School. The Unitarian Fellowship was right down the way. It's a highly trafficked area already. We had wonderful neighborhood participation. Green Earth spoke about issues of concern. A school board member expressed complications if the request was approved. And during the Planning Commission meeting, the church withdrew its request. This question still remains: how will the property be used in the future? A challenge for us. So I'm now focusing on this West Side zoning case. Oh, good. Thank you for reminding me about that. And how our block used the Map Your Neighborhood Disaster Preparedness Program to help us organize on this. And it can help you to organize on issues, as well as in this time of extreme weather, helping your neighbors more efficiently. Please note that even if you do not do all of these things that I'm going to show you, incorporating just a few of them into your lives and just sharing them with the neighbors on each side of you increase safety and security in your neighborhood for earthquakes, flooding, rain. So I'm going to the slideshow. And here you see the contact information on the information I'm going to present. Mary Pullman, who is here with us. Where is Mary Pullman? Right. She put together this slideshow originally for several programs that she attended, educating people on it. I've modified it a little, but most of the information can be found at the Washington State Map Your Neighborhood site. They're considered a leader in disaster preparedness, and you will find all the information that you would need to start to organize your neighbors at this site. And once again, please contact me. There's several of us that were actually trained to do this Map Your Neighborhood program, and we would be happy to assist you. Okay, let's see. Here's my page 4. Let's go in here. So the premise here is in a disaster, who then becomes the responders? And in a disaster, the services of the city are just stretched so thin, you become the first responders. And what are the things that you can do to be the best responder in what is called the golden hour? And that is the hour right after a disaster where you can do a few things that minimize the impact of exacerbating your need for services elsewhere. And they're very small, doable things. Okay, so we're going to go through this 9-step response program. We already have chosen a neighborhood site in our neighborhood, the Unitarian Fellowship, and has extended services to us. And so neighborhood care center, we have those, even the pet-friendly neighborhood centers, complete skill and inventory, and equipment inventory, and then create a map. So right here, we're going into taking care of loved ones as one of the most important parts first. If you can practice and think about where you would go in an earthquake, or even let your family members know, where you plan to go, those kinds of things. But here's something very simple that I want to really recommend to you. It's something I have next to my bed. We've used it. Mary Pullman can tell you how we used it in that derecho. These things, that hat, a good pair of shoes, good gloves, a flashlight, and then that help thing is the kind of the listing of your neighbors and neighborhood resources. And I do have these by my bed, along with my dog. Okay, the most common injury is being cut on glass. People get up, and then this can just go on, if you don't take care of it right, hence the shoes. Here's another thing, is how to turn off your gas. This becomes particularly important in preventing fires, which is in earthquakes becomes significant. You have this wrench. We advise people in our neighborhood to put a wrench in a small plastic bag that is right next to their gas for turn off. Thank you. And then also labeling where you would turn off water so that you can preserve what water you have. There's a part of the brochure is that after a disaster, if you can put up something in your window so your neighbors can quickly assess whether you need help or not. Here's something very interesting. Fires, once again, for earthquakes are particularly problematic. Place extinguishers in line of sight outside the curb so people have ready access and can help fight at a group level. Okay, and after you've done these kinds of things, it's meeting and greeting at the neighborhood site and organizing how you're going to go about going and looking for what neighbors are just disabled and might need help, that kind of thing. The complete skill inventory. Okay, now I want to start connecting this program to preparing yourself for a zoning change or something else that's going on in your community. So you see, we assessed, and you'll see the assessment in a minute. Who had first aid skills, childcare, elder care, carpentry, chainsaws, generators, and poles for stretchers. Now, when we had the zoning case, part of the work was going door to door. And we got to find out some other resources and where they are. That is, those people who had wood burners in case power lines go down and could take people in. What was the other thing we found out? That was a really important one. Oh, basements, in case of tornadoes and stuff like that. So those things are all located. Now, I want to mention to you, not everybody in our neighborhood has participated in this, but we sure have a good chunk of leadership on it. Okay, so we've done all that, and okay, creating the neighborhood map. Now, this is something else that helped us with the zoning case, in that in the map, we have who's where, and we also have their contact information already there. So when I find out something is happening, I can email them or call them very quickly. And we enlarged our list on the zoning case. It also pinpoints where the gas is. See that G down there, where their gas line is, in case people wouldn't know. And then this map is linked with this house number, and there you have the contact information, and you would have information like generators, if they have pets, if they have school-age children. Now, this is really set up for a group of perhaps 12 neighbors. It's not a big thing, but it's a very important one. And so here you see the contact list. Then, of course, you're meeting back to see what are the next steps. And here are the things that people do: listen to the radio, check elderly, check all gas meters, check all help cards, give a report. Now, let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to say about that, and I can't remember it right now. Maybe it'll come to me. Okay, connecting your map, your neighborhood to a neighborhood zoning case. And by the way, I have a couple of the programs, the hard copy programs up here for Map Your Neighborhood that we have that have break this down very specifically. Okay, here's a public hearing. This is the one for the Northeast side. So I want to talk now about, let's see, what do I want to talk about now? Oh, are we? Okay. Notification on a public hearing occurs in three ways, basically. Someone can add if there's another one. One is posting on the property, and there should be certain types of information on that posting. You need to look for that. Notifying occupants within 250 feet of the request. If it's an agricultural zone, it has to be 1,000 feet. This is something Neighborhood Action Group has worked hard on trying to change because, 250 feet does not a neighborhood make. The whole neighborhood needs to be notified about what's happening because traffic patterns change. And it's a safety issue too, because we had a zoning case where, a childcare center in the neighborhood. Well, people did not oppose that, but it's sure good to know that somebody's going to do that when you're driving around the streets. It's just a part of thinking about your neighborhood. But we've tried to correct this to expand it so that more people get to know what zoning is happening where. And we've started a neighborhood zonification. It's codified and you need to sign up for it there. And that anytime there's a zoning change, you're going to get notice of it. I used my neighborhood notification, my map to get emails of neighbors, and we sent out issues. We talked to these people specifically, sometimes going door to door. And we identified, the main thing I think I better say here right now is we wanted to make sure that the Planning Commission knew that we were not opposing the church. The church could build there already. We were opposing the land use change because that church hadn't bought that property yet. And if the commission had voted for it, we would have been stuck with some. Okay, gosh, I had so much more to say. And I timed myself on it. And okay, well, thank you so much. And please get in touch with me if you have further questions.
Just a little business before we go a little further. I want to recognize two people that all the presenters need to look at. First of all is the director of the library here. She does all the clicking and anything that, if there's a problem, she'll come up here and help you. Jennifer. Okay. And then Sarah Heyer. She's our timekeeper. And she has two signs that are both for the speakers and the audience. Sarah, could you stand up and show the signs? The one sign is 1 minute left. That's when I stand up. When she says stop, I'll do my song and dance. It's time to go, baby.
And there's a potential for questions. So I'll show up 1 minute at 9 minutes in case they want to hurry up and have time for questions. But if the speaker wants to keep on going and not take questions, then I'll just hold it up again at 14 minutes and then the stop at 15.
Oh, and if you're not holding the mic correctly, look to me and I'll remind you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Beulah, and I am so excited to be here and to finally have a chance to speak about this gun violence assessment that we did. What? Oh, sorry. Thank you. The assessment is and has been on the Carbondale City website, so you can read the entirety. And I brought a copy with me today, in case anybody wants to thumb through it real quick. I'm focusing on the interviews and the focus groups. And when we collected the data There was all kinds of data that we collected that came from many sources. These are the authors, and the one, two, Tammy and Matthew are criminal justice. Myself and Paul Brinker are from social work, and Justin McDaniel is from public health. So that might give you a perspective on the authors and our perspectives. This was the goals of the report. This comes right out of the report. There's a screenshot of the city website if you want to take a look for yourself for the whole thing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my own goals, which are bigger than this assessment. It started before this assessment. And I'm going to ask and request that you all join me on this path. So these are some kind of strange addresses. You might know the neighborhood a little bit. These are places where I lived. When I was in college, I lived on 408 South Beveridge, and I live at 712 West Elm Street now. And unfortunately, in 2021, 501 West Cherry is when Keishana Jackson was shot. This is also Area 1. The way that we collected data for the community survey divided Carbondale into these sections. So the arrows are pointing to the areas of Carbondale that have the most shots fired reported. This is hotspot data that comes from 2019 to 2020. So January 19 to July 2020. And this is the same area 2020 to 22. And you see a shift in where gun violence is happening. And Area 1 is where all three of those addresses are from. Okay, so there were two questions on the survey. This is one of them. And I call this qualitative data. So basically, a lot of the outcomes on the assessment are numbers. It comes from the census tract, it comes from police calls, it comes from firearm-related police offense data, comes from arrest data, comes from confirmed shootings, streetlight data, seized firearm data, police data, firearms arrests, seizures, theft, GIS land use data. Then there was the Carbondale household survey. We had 1,208 respondents. And then we did 11 interviews with stakeholders. And we did one focus group. And in the survey, there's a lot of times there's a question that's like multiple choice, and then you have an other. So what I'm focusing in on is the other. People answered that, and then I'm adding in the data that came from the interviews. So this question, what strategies are currently being used in the area where you live to try to reduce gun violence? The most frequently other comment was, I don't know, I'm not aware, not sure, and I have no idea. There were some that were familiar with some of the things that are going on, and they were the Boys and Girls Club, the Denton Center, Neighborhood Watch, and cameras. The other question I focused in on was, what do you think would help to reduce the gun problems in the area where you live? So the most frequently answered was poverty related. That's income inequality in housing. Youth focused, that means activities and mentoring, addressing truancy and presenting hope and opportunity to youth. And then also I mentioned was mental health and drug treatment. A fair amount of people suggested different policing. Interestingly enough, some people said there should be more police and some said there should be less. Same thing with gun-related comments. Some people said there should be more and some people said there should be less. And then there was some individual comments about family support, the built environment, and decriminalizing drugs. The focus groups and interviews basically confirm some of these things. Lots of information that we got was youth focused, providing some kind of activity, supervision, opportunities, and hope for the future. These could be school-based, and also addressing truancy. One of the things that we know as social workers is that you can kind of predict the youth that are having trouble in school and drop out. You ask anybody who's in education, you can predict those are the ones that end up in trouble. So back to the issue of hope and family help, resources, guidance, support, and violence prevention. So how am I doing for time? Oh, wow, great. That's including the questions? Okay. Okay, so I had kind of did an assessment of the assessment. And one of the things that I noticed from the interviews and the focus groups, excuse me, was that a lot of times people don't know what the other ones are doing. There's not a lot of awareness, and there's different entities within the community who are acting and doing great things, but they don't know what the other ones are doing. So I often felt like, wow, I wish I could break the confidentiality here and tell you that someone else I interviewed just the other day was saying the same exact thing, and they have no idea you exist. Then I put another thing that I observed, and this happened before they started the assessment. I noticed we have a racism problem here. So this is just like gun violence, it's a nationwide thing, right? We have seen in the United States an uptick in gun violence. We've also seen in the United States, we have issues around race. And I think that one of the issues that impeded our ability to do an accurate and thorough job on this assessment was that there were individuals who were not willing to hit this problem head on, acknowledge that it exists, and do something about it. And my goal, going full circle back to my goal, was not only to address gun violence, but to look at the race issues that are behind not only the disparities in gun violence, which affects African American men way more than anybody else, but there's disparities everywhere else too: education, income, jobs, health outcomes. So those disparities are also part of the disparities of gun violence. So anyways, so we are polarized. And I think that our biggest hope is that we work together. I have time for questions. Awesome. It's really hard to put this into 10 minutes. I'm telling you, I could talk for about an hour. Anybody have a question? Yes. How much did it cost? The city paid around $63,000, I believe. The date of it? October 3rd. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the data that we got that we can compare nationwide data comes from 2020. And there's been, even right here, a lot more. So you see that trend increasing just as.
Let's have somebody else.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Please ask your questions into a
Oh,
microphone
did
or
you-
else
I can-
people can't hear you on
Okay,
Zoom.
sorry. Did you make any recommendations?
There was all kinds of recommendations in the report and a lot of them, am I doing that? The feedback. The recommendations, like I mentioned from the survey, but also from the focus groups, have to do with focusing on youth and housing. So they're poverty related and youth related.
That was an answer.
Yes. Another, one more question?
Over here. Hi.
Oh, okay.
Is this assessment something that is being planned to be done more frequently? Like, is this maybe an annual thing? And when do you guys plan to do another assessment if that is being planned? Because as the gentleman behind me said, there has been some more violence since you guys have done this report in October.
Thank you for the question. He's asking if we're going to do this again. Right now, there's no plans to do this again. But what we need to do, I think, is probably break out into smaller assessments where there are grant funded programs and as we develop programs to assess how they're working and to continue working together. But so no, to answer the big question, but yeah, we need to keep on looking at this for sure. Thank you.
I have one question from Zoom. Do you think this data points to action? If so, what and who should implement?
What and who? Oh, I love this question. Okay, my answer is you. Everybody. Okay. And what is when you start thinking about, hey, this is something we really need to look at and do something about. And that's why I gave you those addresses. For me, I'll share my experience and see if this resonates with some of you. And so I lived at 408 South Beveridge. 408 South Beveridge is right across the street where Keishana was shot. 4 of my students were at that party when that happened that semester. I had one student who was a foot away from her as she died in my class. He was not able to come back. So things kept pointing me to this. Just like, you know, every time I come to a side, it's like, go this way, go this way. And coming to this awareness that this is a very important thing, opportunities of what you can do will present themselves to you. Okay, so it might be just little things. It might be self-reflection. It might be getting involved with community disaster plans. Some of the things that our next speakers are going to talk about are going to give you more opportunities to think about what you can do. So does that answer the question? Yes, Mary?
Yeah, I noticed that one of the recommendations that was that the police department does not have personnel that actually collect and analyze data.
Ooh, yeah. Yes.
Notice. And
Yeah.
one of the things I've noticed is on the 5-on-5 program, which is an excellent program, an excellent place to collect data. There is no data collected on this. And you can collect data on this without betraying confidentiality. At
Absolutely.
least just a list of the 5 questions that community members ask and the 5 questions that the police ask of community members. Those questions are
Yep.
fascinating. Plus, we had some great responses to some important questions like, how do we get citizen representation on police review boards, which is a big question now.
Awesome. See right there. This is an example of an opportunity. We have people at the university. She's telling me to stop. I'll just finish just one more minute. That this is what they do, right? They observe and they write reports and they go through IRB and make sure they're not doing any harm, and they could do that. So it's like making a bridge between the people that are doing this 5-on-5 and the people who could research it, right? Let's talk some more. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly. As a transition, I want to share with you what I share every year when we talk about the Carbondale Community Library, where we are now. The first school that I attended in Carbondale was the Old Brush School. The Old Brush School sat almost identically on the foundations that we are sitting right now. The building to the south of us was our gymnasium and our cafeteria. I was on the third floor with Miss Zunick, and Mary Swindell was our principal. So if I act kind of elementary sometimes, believe me, I feel real good today to be on my old stomping grounds. Who do we have next? All right. How did I?
Thank you. Huh. Thank you. I'm Diana Brawley Sussman. I am the director of the Carbondale Public Library, and I'm here to talk about Carbondale United, which is an organization run by Nancy Maxwell, who now has a staff, and you're going to meet one of them today. Carbondale United started over 3 years ago in response to a shooting between high school students. And we have been working ever since, and recently received some 3R funding, restore, reinvest, and renew funding from the state of Illinois in order to begin a violence interruption program. This is based on the Cure Violence model, which has been in effect for many years and has been used on multiple continents. And I'll share some of their success stories with you as well. The concept behind Cure Violence is that violence behaves like a contagious disease. The pattern is almost exactly the same as any other pattern you can map. And if we treat violence like an epidemic, we get results in the community. So what does that mean? The clustering of a disease is very similar. You'll see, just as we saw on the maps earlier, that there are clusters of violence, just like you'll have clusters of COVID-19, for example. It comes in epidemic waves. And it is transmitted. And this is kind of an important piece. Violence is transmitted by exposure to violence. So if you have a child who witnessed violence as a child, they are going to be more likely to perpetrate violence. And basically,